We're officially live. Hi, Liza.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm great. I know we just saw each other. You were down here in South Florida last week and we had coffee together.
Yes,
And
we did.
and we're new friends, right? We
Yes,
met, you spoke to the Pipeline Women's Investment Club. When was that? Like about a month ago?
about a month ago. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, you need to speak at our Women Investor Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm happy to be here. This is fun.
Well, this is the first of 10 episodes in our series. So what I did last year is, you're very familiar with our Commercial Real Estate Women's Summit, which
Correct.
is March 14th and 15th this year in South Florida. And what I did last year to kind of get people to, because I would send out the flyer or the email and people would call and go, what is this? Like they weren't grasping what kind of conference is this? I'm like, it's for women investors. Like, well, what are you going to do there? We're going to talk about investing. So we were sitting around brainstorming and I said, why don't I do like a live every week leading up to the conference? And because the other thing, which is awesome, I'm now getting people reaching out to me saying, hey, do you know so-and-so? She would be a great speaker for you. But at this point, we're full with all of the speak. Like next year, you're going to speak, right?
I hope so. Yes, I would love
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. So, but when I met you a month ago, like our slate of speakers were full.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for me to get new people I'm meeting, getting them on in this platform because now I'll get to not only have the people in the audience at the summit learn from 11 of our women speakers, but now they also get to learn and get exposed from 10 more speakers. So 21 speakers of women who are investing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I can't wait. I joined up and I can't wait. Really looking forward to it.
So we're going to get into the intro for you, but I just want to, as you know, reason we started this 4 years ago was shockingly, we found out that only of all the commercial real estate people in the world, all of the commercial real estate investors in the US, only 3% are women.
Wow.
Just deplorable. And I said, that's just terrible. And I started trying to find out, why is that? Why is that number so low? So I started talking to people, women that said, yeah, I'd like to invest, but I don't. Well, why don't you? And I would hear things like, I don't have $1 million. I'm like, it doesn't take $1 million. And then I would hear it's too complicated. And then I would ask them, well, do you invest? And they'd say, yes. I go, well, where do you invest? And they go, the stock market. I go, and you don't think that's complicated, right? I don't know why my Netflix stock dropped 80% last year. I have no idea. Yeah. Then they would say they're fearful, they're afraid. And then I would say, well, what are you afraid of? And many women are like you and me, were or are in the industry. Yeah. Which is, what are you fearful of? You work in the industry. But what it eventually, after I dug and 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 kept asking a lot of questions, it really came down to they didn't see any peers investing.
Sure.
And they couldn't look to say, oh, my friend Susie invests, my friend Liza invests, my friend Natasha invests. They didn't see women in their circle investing. Yeah. And that's when I said, okay, I can help with that. Let's have a conference. The first one was virtual, and then the last two have been in person. So thank you, for being a woman who has had the courage, and they call us crazy, right? But that you've been investing. So Liza, tell them where you're from and tell them a little bit about your career before you started investing, and then we'll go into the investing.
Okay. So I am based out of Philadelphia. I started in real estate probably about like 15 years ago. I started out in commercial, correct? Yes. And I originally started out working at a brokerage firm, Marcus and Millichap, selling shopping centers. And that's kind of what kicked everything off. And that was 2006, 2007. And through that, I started, I kind of saw where the market was going, and I had a conversation with my father, and he said, you should talk to this woman who is in property management. He said, I really think you would like what she does. So I met with her, and she said, oh, I think you would be a really great fit for this. You know, you should talk to my boss who is in Philadelphia. So fast forward, I went and met her boss in Philadelphia, and we really hit it off. I'll never forget, I had this conversation with him, and we sat for coffee and talked for like 2 hours, and he didn't look at his cell phone. And, fast forward, working for him for 10 years, it is not often that guy does not look at his cell phone for that long. So,
Awesome.
The conversation went really well. And at the time he had a single tenant McDonald's building that he wanted to sell. So I was still working at the brokerage firm. He said, I might be interested in selling this. I sold the McDonald's. And through that, we really got to know one another. And at that time, it was probably around 2007. And he said, the market is in a weird spot right now. That was a fully commission-based job that I was in. And he said, why don't you come work for me? You can do property management, you can do leasing, you can do redevelopment. So the writing was really on the wall. And one of the things that I think was really integral to my success there was that when I negotiated my pay there, I had negotiated a base salary and then also a commission-based portion as well. So it was great. I kind of, set it up so that I could live off my my pretty menial base salary, but I was incentivized to lease property and that sort of thing.
That's
So I
great.
was able to really bank that money and save that money. So that was a really great move early on.
Yeah. And were you married then?
I was not. I
Okay.
was like, fresh out of college, 2 years maybe.
Got it. But you're married now.
Married now, 3 kids. And when I have twin boys. And when I had those boys, I kind of, I realized at that point that I could not continue to work for that company at the pace and the caliber that I was working for them and have these 2 little boys. So the writing was really on the wall. I had to make a change. And while I was working for him, I started picking up investment properties. I bought my first triplex while I was working for him. And the way that I bought that was from my commissions that I saved. So I was able to move into the first floor. I rented out the top 2. I was able to get owner-occupant financing, which, as you know, is a more desirable interest rate in often, cases. So that was kind of my start. And
can you share the price that you paid?
Sure. It was $375,000.
So it doesn't take $1 million to get into commercial real estate.
Yeah, it does not whatsoever. And I think I put in it was $60,000 I needed to buy into that deal.
And the owner seller financed the rest of it?
No, I got regular financing, but I got owner occupant financing from a bank.
Oh, got you. Owner occupant, which is probably a much higher loan to value since if you were buying a building to put your business in, you can get SBA financing and put 5% down.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Owner occupant financing. Okay. That's great. And so you move in, and were you married then or single?
Nope. Still single. At that point.
And for 60 grand, you now own a 300. Well, like I always tell my boys, we own blades of grass because, the lenders really own it, but
exactly.
You had the appearance that you owned a $375,000 deal.
Correct. Yep.
How old were you?
So I was 26 at that time, 26, 27.
How were you proud of yourself?
I was. And I said this on the investor podcast. The thing that was crazy about that deal is I look back on it and I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous because I knew the numbers. I was doing this on a much larger scale. So I was really confident about the numbers. And I remember sitting there at the closing table and just thinking I got this. And it was
like 26, ladies and
yeah.
ladies, 26.
Yeah.
But that's important, right? Is knowing the numbers is crucially important,
Yeah.
and knowing your market. So you probably had to feel comfortable with, I know I can rent out the other 2 units at these rental rates. So,
Yep.
and when you say knowing your numbers, that's what you mean. You knew what you could, by your experience, know what the expenses were going to be, what your rents were going to be, et cetera. So when you bought it, was the upstairs vacant?
So it was fully occupied when I bought it, but the first floor tenant was moving out, and that was disclosed to me. So, I knew this going into it, that I was going to move into that first floor. And that it worked out well, because that first floor was the unit that actually needed some TLC. So I was able to, live there and make some improvements while I was there.
How do you still have that?
I do, yes. I'm thinking of selling it now, only because I want to do a 1031 and use it, to leverage into something larger. But I do. It's near and dear to my heart too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what they say, you can't fall in love or stay in love with your real estate, but but that might be a thing that women might do.
Yes, that might be.
have an emotional attachment. So just a few comments. So Natasha, your new friend and my new friend, my new old friend. So she says, awesome. So smart to save your wages and invest in real estate. And Jessica, who you need to meet, I'll introduce you to Jessica. You'll meet her. Definitely. You'll see her at the summit. She said, creative first deal. And then I don't know who the LinkedIn user is. Tell me who you are. But this person says, amazing the confidence you had at 26. Kudos to you for making such great decisions.
Thank you.
See, these are the people that are going to be at the summit. Such warm, welcoming, inspiring each other, motivating. How great. So Natasha, so on a side note, we just had coffee last week, and Liza's telling me her story, and I don't know how many, I must have said 10 times, you have to meet Natasha. You have to meet Natasha. Natasha's going to be your new best friend. So, and some of you that are avid listeners to the show know I interviewed Natasha last year. She's spoken at past conferences. Liza, sorry. Okay, so so you're still working at the other company?
Yeah, still working at the other company. About, I would say, a year later, I had saved up enough money, because I wasn't paying much in rent, because my top 2 tenants were paying my mortgage, and I was ready to buy my next deal, again with owner-occupant financing, because you can get in with better terms. So less money down, basically. And I bought a single family home in Center City, Philadelphia. Great location. I was scared to death. And it was
so you were very confident, no fear, and now you're scared. Now you got to tell us why.
So it was because it was only 1 unit. And I am not, I think single families now are a great way to start in the business, but you kind of have all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
And, not having other sources of income made me nervous, because again, I knew my numbers. I felt good with my numbers on the first deal. And this one, I was like, well, what do I do if I have my hot water heater goes down 1 month? If that happens in a multifamily building, you have other units that can still support, the revenue that you need, and the expenses that you have.
Now you said you also got occupancy financing on this one. So did you move out of the apartment and into this one?
Correct.
So then what happened to the owner?
Yeah. So technically you should be there for 2 years. I moved out a little early and rented the first floor. So, and that was not.
So what happened to that loan? Did it change from an owner-occupant?
Nope. Oh. And it still is, the loan is still there today. As long as you pay your mortgage payment, you should not have a problem.
Awesome. Okay. So deal number 2. So you live in there. Do you still own that one?
I sold that one.
So how long did you live there?
So I lived there for probably another year or so.
And then what happened?
Yeah. Year and a half. So, and that then I met my husband. So, and it's so funny. My husband is in residential sales, and my husband actually sold me that little property.
Is that how you met him?
That's how we met, at an open house. And it's so funny, on the street in Audain Street. And now we own probably 5 properties on Audain Street in Philadelphia. So it's kind of like it's one of our favorite streets, as you can imagine.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So you meet your husband and then he says, we're going to move somewhere else and you're going to rent this house out, or you sold the house right away?
So we rented it out, and we held that one for, I would say, a couple years, at least probably 4 or 5 years. And, I was picking up things in between. As you and I discussed, Beth, I write a lot of letters to property owners.
Tell the ladies how you do this, because I know Jessica, who's listening, does letters too.
Yeah. So, I think it sounds really crazy, but the letters that they talk about, like, do you want to sell your house? They really work. And I really went all in on that. And I would send letters, and I still do. I mean, I just sent out 130 letters for the month of December. I stuff them. I Google map and earth things and look for properties, and I send out letters. So
of the 130 you send out, how many people do you talk to, have a conversation with?
Yeah. So my model has changed a little bit on the sending the letters. Originally, I was sending out in bulk. I would send out like 300 letters, and I would typically get around 5 phone calls back off of those 300 letters. And, the majority of deals didn't work, but it was more about starting a conversation and developing a relationship and keeping that deal in the back of my mind, whether it was for me or whether I talked to another investor or a friend and said, hey, I know of this opportunity. Maybe it's right for you. It's not right for me. Because I really like to pay things forward, because I think it always comes back around. So, but through, a batch of letters that I sent out, we found a woman who owned 5 properties in Center City, Philadelphia. And at the time, we did not have any money. So we bought 3 of them, and we took the other 2 to friends of ours, and our friends bought the other 2.
So how did you, were they single families?
They were single families, but they were so well located, like right in Center City. We paid $210,000 per property.
Wow.
And so they were very, very good deals. And we've used a lot of those properties through refinancing to fuel our growth.
So do you still have those 3?
We have all of those except for one that was a home we moved into and made for our family that we, later sold to go into our home we're in now. So we have the 2.
Do your friends own the other 2 still?
So the joke amongst ourselves, one couple we're really good friends with, it's like the best deal of his life. Him and his wife moved into it, and they sold it later for a sizable profit. And, we talk about it fondly with them. So
awesome. So my friend Diane said, love that. Letter campaigns work.
Yeah.
I shared with you, I'm part of a mastermind group called Commercial Academy, and they actually teach people techniques to buy proproperties. And that's how I met Diane. And they talk about letter campaigns a lot. And Jessica, she's got proof that letters work. She owns a couple units in a building, and she wants to buy all the units in the building. Yeah. She's sending those letters. Do you put pictures of you and your husband and your 3 little kids in the letters?
I do not, but I do try and personalize them. I say, my husband and I are looking, and can I treat you to a cup of coffee? And so I really try and personalize them. And I also think people can tell if a letter comes from, people can tell that I'm stuffing the letter. It
Right.
doesn't look like it's been generated by some sort of, machine.
I have a
So
I have a friend who wanted to buy a condo in a building here in Fort Lauderdale on the water, and he identified the building, and he knew he wanted only these units like on the corner facing south. So it was
yeah,
like, 107, 207, 3. He found out who the owners were, and he would send a letter out every month, and he would put stickers of like Halloween or Easter. And
yeah,
he did,
something
and
to,
he put a picture of him and his wife because they wanted to buy it for their own residence. But he
yeah.
ended up buying the unit doing that.
Yeah, yeah, it really works. My approach as I've gotten, into larger properties has changed a little bit. It's not on such a mass mailing campaign. It's more, I put an emphasis more now on quality over quantity. So if you're
Right.
receiving, a letter from me, I've actually looked up the property, I've done some
Right.
research on it, and I can have a conversation with you about it. Because
So
as you
so
know,
let's talk about that.
yeah.
So triplex, single family, 3 single families, then what?
Yeah. And then after that, I think it was a 7-unit building in
Oh, so
Fishtown.
this is the first kind of big deal.
Yeah, which also came from a letter that, I wrote. Um, all my best deals are off of letters because everything was found off market. And
All
I,
my best deals have been phone calls and years. Like I just closed on a partial partnership yesterday, 14 years.
yeah,
14 years. It'll be
yeah,
the best deal of my life though. So,
exactly. So
um,
it's worth it.
so how did you find the 7 unit?
A letter. We were like kind of honing in on a neighborhood in Philadelphia that we wanted to be a part of the, redevelopment that was going on there, and we sent out a ton of letters. And that deal took a year and a half to get done. The seller actually passed away through the transaction, so we
Oh,
then bought it from her son, who we were dealing with the majority of the time. But it was, it took a year and a half, 2 years to buy that deal. So
yeah. So let me ask you, because I'm confused. So do you just get a group of lists of addresses? Because like for me, if I want to go buy a shopping center, I drive by the center, I see the center, I look up the owner, I know the deal, and then I call the owner. So when
yeah.
you say like, had you ever seen the deal before the letter went out, or you just got it like a group of here are addresses of apartment buildings or multi-unit in this block, in these blocks, and you just send letters out?
So we would utilize the MLS. I don't know if you guys have that in Florida. It's
We
yeah,
do for residential. I don't, I guess
yeah.
apartments are on it. Yeah.
So exactly. So that's the beauty of it. A lot of multifamilies on there. You just have to know the correct zoning codes to kind of
Got it.
differentiate, weed through those things. So we were able to kind of narrow our focus on multifamily buildings in that neighborhood and generate a list. And then we sent the letter to those property owners.
So did you hear from the woman who passed away first or her son?
Her son.
Got it.
And a lot of times, the people that call us, the building is at the point where they either need to reinvest,
Right.
a lot of money, or it's time to sell.
Right.
So,
Okay. So now you have 7 units. Then what?
so after that, I mean, it kind of just, then we bought a 3-unit, and then we knew of an older woman down the street from us that owned a 4-unit building in a great location again, and we planted the seed there. That took a couple years also, but that seed was planted 4 or 5 years before the deal happened.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
how did you, going back to the 7-unit, how did you finance that one?
So that one was, we got a construction loan from a bank. And you know what's really funny, Beth? When we did that deal, I was dealing with the bank, and, I don't think the banker was used to dealing with women. And he met me at the property. When does your mortgage person He met me at the property and walked me through the building and told me how to renovate it and how to do it. And I remember just thinking like, at that time I was working for a huge commercial developer, redeveloping shopping centers and negotiating national like leases. Like this little 7-unit building was not, I wasn't scared about the renovations, but I just found it so funny that, this guy wanted to walk me through the building and I guess I had to kind of prove myself and I was willing to do that and bite my tongue. But right. I had been in so many other deals where the banker never met the purchaser at the property and walked right. through it with them. So
and you're like, and in the back, you're thinking he would not have done this if I was a guy.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you financed it with this lender.
Yeah. So we got acquisition and construction financing. So, we would take a draw from, we had a certain amount of dollars set to the side, if you will, for construction. And we would draw on that and pay the contractor. And then, at the end of the project, then we need to lease it. And then your permanent financing sets in.
So when you bought that deal, was it empty or did you vacate
there was 2 tenants living there.
Wow. So so you went in and renovated the 5 other units? Yeah.
Correct.
And then where did you have to put a lot of money down on that?
We put 25% down on that.
Okay.
And we were able to, with our other single families, we bought those at a very attractive price point. So we were able to go in and make, I would say, minimal improvements there and really increase the rents and refinance. And so we were able to pull money out, we were able to pull money out that we took and used then as a down payment for the 7-unit.
Right. You didn't use it to go to Hawaii or buy a Jaguar.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would have been fun. I mean, one day.
Yeah. But so that's awesome. And then did you, I forgot what I was going to say. Jamie Levinshawn, a friend of ours and who's in the insurance businesses, says, woot, woot. So they're all excited. Okay. So 7 units. Then what was the next one?
So I think the next one was a 3-unit kind of back in my neighborhood where we were living. Since we self-manage everything, it makes sense to kind of keep things close because, I like maintenance requests and kind of jumping around. It's a lot easier if I'm not driving, 45 minutes somewhere because these are also small scale deals. So this all sounds great, but I'm not making enough money at this point that I can, stop hustling so much. Like I had made a very sizable commission off of a shopping center deal that I had did. Because remember, at this time, I had just stopped working for the developer when I bought the 7-unit.
Got it.
So all the previous deals, they were done simultaneously as I was working for him.
So now you said, I'm leaving there. We're going to do this full-time, husband.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. And, again, the fortunate, thing that I had is he has a residential sales team. So he was able to kind of, that his sales again, we lived off of his sales. And then again, we're not taking money from the properties at right. that time. We're able just to kind of reinvest everything.
So bringing that up, since he's in residential sales, when you buy deals, do you say, I'm a broker, my husband's a broker, I want a piece of the commission if there's a broker involved?
We do. And that works on residential deals. It doesn't work as well on commercial. Commercial, it's much more savvy and sophisticated, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't do that. I do know a lot of people that do it. I just don't want the broker. What I say is I don't want to be in your pocket. I don't want them to not give me the nod on the deal versus someone that's buying it that doesn't want a commission.
Exactly.
Right. I don't want to lose a deal over $50,000 or $100,000 commission.
Exactly. It's not worth it.
Right. So, so how many units you did the 7, then you did the 3, then what?
And then we bought a 4-unit that we redeveloped. And that was a really great deal. That was from the older woman down the street from us. And then we bought I think at that time, I forget which one, we had bought this deal. And now I'm kind of bringing you up to this to probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we bought I think it was a 7-unit, and then it was a 6-unit building, and then it had a single-story commercial building beside it. So 2 parcels in a questionable part of Philadelphia. It was an area that was, transitioning, but it was awesome. It was overlooking a park, beautiful old building. And it was the first time my husband and I went outside of our model of what we typically stick to. And we got screwed. We bought it with a line of credit. We didn't put any real equity into it. Interest rates go through the roof. We had projected the model at I think we were at 3.5%. We were projecting for our interest rate. And during that time, we had found another deal that we really liked that we could get into right away and start renovating, versus that project had to go through the whole zoning and get building permits. So it was a much slower deal. And during that time, tick, 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 interest rates just keep going up. Wow. So from originally running our numbers at 3.5%, now rerunning them at the time it was probably 6.5%. Yeah. It worked, but it was too close for me. It kept me up at night, and I didn't feel good about it. I loved the property and the deal, and I know I'm going to regret selling it. It's maybe down the road, but as I sit today, I'm so glad I got out of it.
Yeah. You have to, sleeping at night is very underrated. It's really important to have a good night of sleep and not have the worry and the stress, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, Beth,
Did you make any profit on it, or did you break even or lose money?
We lost probably $10,000. It wasn't much, but the problem was, Beth, we had rolled gains, because we do a lot of 1031 exchanges. We had rolled gains into it. So now I'm paying taxes this year yes.
Yeah.
So
that's why I don't do 1031s.
Yeah.
Because once you do it, you got to do it all the time.
Yeah.
I sold a deal a couple of years ago where the people overpaid significantly because they were in an exchange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing with 1031s is you are only deferring the tax. The tax doesn't go away. It's just the deferral method of the tax, as you're saying. So
would you now never do a 1031? What's your opinion on it?
I will always do 1031s.
Okay.
I think but I won't force one, which is what you're saying. If it comes down to it and I can't find the right exchange property, then I'm just gonna pay the tax and move on. But for the 4-unit I bought, we had sold. It was 2 single-tenant buildings and some land. It was like a deal we went in with someone else that was really running the deal. We did a 1031 into this 4-unit building, and it was great, so it worked out that well. And I think that's another reason why you develop these relationships, because again, you kind of have all these irons in the fire that if you are in a 1031 exchange, you can go back to these people and say, hey, I'm in this position right now. Are you interested? Is this a good time? And people take you a lot more serious if they understand that you have money that you need to spend.
For sure. And so how many units? So is the 7-unit the largest property you have?
So we have an 8-unit that we bought simultaneously as the one that didn't work. And that was the thing, I was spread a little too thin at that point, because again, I'm doing it all right now, Yeah. I'm doing the leasing, I'm doing the property management. I'm a mom of 3, I'm
how old tell the audience how old your kids are.
My boys are 7, they're twins, and my little girl is 5, and she's incredible.
So how many total units do you have today?
So I think now we're at like 35 or 36. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think when I was interviewing Natasha on stage, I think she was in the 40s. She can text, she can post it, but I think it was in the 40s. And I asked her what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
1 year from now, how many units are you going to have? Now, remember, you don't have to do it all yourself. Natasha has hired a bookkeeper. She's had in the past a property manager. I mean, once you start getting more density, you can bring on, staff, people to help. So so January 2025, Liza Bresson.
Yeah.
How many units are you going to have?
That's such a great question. I am afraid to answer that, Beth, because I know you're going to hold me to it.
I am going to hold you to it.
And it all depends, right? Right now I'm trying to, probably start to syndicate some deals. So if I'm able to do that, then I think I want to add I want to get to 100 units. I don't know if I'm going to get to that in a year.
So what if we say 75?
Okay.
So, and the point is, listen, this is what Natasha, these 4 and these 7s and these 3, go find the 20.
I know. And that's what I'm realizing. Like you, in our coffee meeting, Beth, you had said, Liza, you're small and safe, which isn't, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But there comes a time where you need to step outside of your comfort zone and go for it. And that's where we're at.
And I think, Natasha, when she said, I said, what do you want to get to? And I think she said 50. And I'm like, well, you're already at 41. I don't remember the exact conversation. And I pushed her to say 100. And I told her the same thing, go find a bigger property. And I think and we're going to talk about syndication and investment, but I think the next property she bought, I think, was 47 units. I mean, it's like, let me just, so it's worked, but it worked by expanding your brain and not just thinking 3, 7. And she was at, I think, 4, 8, 4, 8.
She was doing, our stories are very similar.
I know.
Yeah.
But, and so then the next deal, I met her. She told me what she was doing. I'm having a hard time buying retail because of the crazy world we live in. So, but I have cash. So I invested with her. And so I think I've invested now with her 4 times. But what's so great is I think that she bought a property 2 properties ago, and it's an all women investment property. I think there's 12 women, and I might have the numbers wrong, so forgive me, but I think 8 of the women she met at the summit.
Yeah.
So at the summit, not only do you get to meet, and hear inspirational stories like yours, but you get to meet people in the room that have cash, like 25,000 or 50,000, that want to invest, that are not ready yet to go buy a 7 unit. Okay. Yeah. But they want to invest with someone they meet like you. And so you can meet LPs in the room, limited partners, for 25,000. And then the GP, so GPs can meet LPs and LPs can meet GPs. So that was I was so excited, is I'm trying to get the women in the room that are investing in the stock market, working in our industry like you and I both did, right? To just take some of the money and diversify it into an industry we know.
Yeah. Yep.
So Brittany, do you know someone named Brittany Skinner?
I do. Hi, Brittany. I didn't know she was going to be on this.
She said, Liza, you are a true inspiration to everyone who has the pleasure of knowing you, which I think
she's so sweet.
all of us feel that way. Jamie said, amen to 1031s. Oh my God, amazing. Angela Bono is giving you a
love it.
that, whatever that is. And then Jamie says, it's good to a thing to have Beth hold you accountable.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, technically, I mean, I would, go more, but the market we're at a weird place right now.
I think 75 is a very legitimate goal.
I would love to own 75 units, Beth.
So, and you just need to open your eyes and your letters to larger units, larger, 15, 20, 25 units.
Yeah.
Because and I know you do your own property management, your own leasing, and I think that what I share is that's all good. But when you get to a certain size that financially you can afford, like I said to Natasha early on, I said, hire someone for 10 hours a week. That's it.
Yeah.
10 hours a week at whatever, 15 or 20 bucks an hour, whatever your market would, that's 200 bucks a week. That's 800 bucks a month. Can you afford 800 bucks a month and get 40 hours worth of work of the stuff because when you are doing all of that stuff, you're not sending out as many letters. You're not identifying new acquisitions.
Yeah. I'm investing in getting my time back,
right.
Because
if you calculated your value, let's say is 200 an hour. Of course you should hire someone for 20 bucks an hour to do the stuff you don't want to do. Like I love leasing. I still lease. I don't mind calling tenants and asking for rent. I do have a property manager because I don't want to get the roof leak calls and I don't want to supervise the paving of the lot, but I have no problem calling for rent and leasing.
Yeah.
So, and again, what is your hourly rate? And if you can hire someone at less, and again, people freak out like, I can't hire anyone. I'm like, I'm not saying hiring a 40-hour person, just hire someone for 10 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you make a great point.
So we're winding down. So what, if you had one piece of advice to give to our ladies that are listening that, are interested, but they're not sure, like what would be your one piece of advice?
Oh man, that's a great question.
We had none of these questions were rehearsed. She's like, are you sending me questions? I'm like, no, it's going to be completely natural. So here's one that might not have taken you off.
One piece of advice that I think just persistence, and you have to expect kind of to get like knocked down along the way and like, a
lot of no's.
Persistent. Yeah. Brittany Skinner actually, who commented, I'll never forget, I was working out of my husband's office and she sat in front of me and she would just make phone calls over and over and over again. And, the majority of the time, those people are hanging up on you. And she persisted. So I think persistence is key.
And Angela Bono said, those were strong emojis for Liza being an amazing mama investor.
Oh, thank you.
So is there anything looking back that you wished you would have done differently?
That's a great question too.
Probably not going outside of your buy box, right?
Yeah. But you know what? I learned a lot from going outside of my buy box, and I'm glad that I did it on that size deal, because as I'm trying to get into bigger deals, I will not be doing that again. So I'm grateful for that experience and learning from that. I think maybe this past 6 months, I've been really grinding and talking to a lot of people, and the last couple of years have been very busy with just, kind of running and building. But I think I would have taken a little more time to talk to more people like you, Beth, and like Natasha, and just try and kind of forge those relationships, because I think it would have helped me kind of grow a little bit faster with more knowledge and, and just relationships.
I won't ask you how old you are, but you're doing great. You're not 63. I know that. So you're doing great. You're not too late. You're right on time.
Yeah.
You're right where you're supposed to be. And those like just what you said earlier, those relationships in your market, like when you find a deal that's not good for you, but and remember, those people are going to call you when they find a deal that's not for them, but maybe it's for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually think right now is, when my kids they're still really young, but they're more self-sufficient. So it's like, it's go time right now for me. It's like, this is when I think women really can like hit the ground running, because my family's kind of established and now it's time to like, let's do this.
We're going to end on that. Let's do this. So for you guys to meet people like Liza, and Liza's going to be in the room, right? In the room where it happens. If you saw Hamilton, that's my favorite song.
Yep.
But, it's March 14th and 15th. It's the Women Commercial Real Estate Investor Summit. And Diane says, Liza, thank you for sharing your story. It's a 2 days event where I'll be interviewing, I think, 11 women speakers. Day 2 for the VVIPs, 40, capped at 40. So the event usually is going to have between 2 to 250 women, but 40 that choose to go the VVIP route. We're going to get in a bus and we're going to drive by 3 of my assets, and then we're going to go to see 3 of Natasha's apartment assets. And you're going to actually be boots on the ground, and we're going to hand you books of pictures before and after, how we did the financing, how we raised family and friends, how we syndicated, what was the partnership structure, all of that. So March 14th and 15th, it's in Fort Lauderdale. It's going to be literally a mile from the Fort Lauderdale airport. You can fly in and out at a hotel called the La Meridian. And then if any of you all listening know of any people that might want to sponsor, be in the room with these 250 rock star women, let me know about that also, because we are bringing more sponsors in this year. So Liza, thank you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And I can't wait to see you in March in person again.
Thank you so much, Beth. This was fun.
All right. Stay here for 1 second and let everyone go. Bye, everybody. See you next Wednesday. We'll be doing this every Wednesday at 7 o'clock until the summit. So every week I'll be interviewing a different rockstar women investor for Women Investor Wednesdays. So have a great week. Bye-bye.